G'day, how are you doing? Hopefully keeping healthy and safe. Today we are going to have a look into this new Acer Swift 5. It's a 14-inch laptop and is part of Acer's ultra thin range. It's also quite premium and this is the 2022 edition of this model. So it houses the new 12th gen Intel core and we're going to explore the features of this computer as well, look at the temperatures and fan noise as well. And as always, I will be putting timestamps along this video so you can skip to the different sections that you may be interested to save you time. The weight of the Acer Swift 5 is 1.26 kilos plus the 65 watt power adapter becomes a combined weight of 1.55 kilos that you might be carrying around with you. As for the build construction of the Acer Swift 5, there is a really nice, beautiful brush aluminum along all the edges, and it's got that gold finish. Just give that nice little bling factor to it. Definitely nice looking for the size, and especially when you pick it up, you can definitely feel that brush aluminum there. Now, as for the top, the back, and also the palm rest and keyboard, I'll just simplify it. It's pretty much just plastic, but that is very durable plastic, I can tell you that. Now, we haven't got too much flex in bending or twisting of the chassis, as well as the keyboard can take quite a bit of punishment. It doesn't do too much flex, and it's actually has a very good amount of structure to the keyboard there, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, as for hinge wise, it actually is interesting, this hinge here. Now, I'm just going to do one finger test for you to have a look at, is that it does have a bit of clamp at the start, and then you just need a little finger to help out, but it is very smooth all the way through. Now, it opens up to what I would say about 130 degrees, and as for the wiggle test, it actually clamps very good, and that's why I say it's interesting at the start. So the hinge has like what I would probably say is 2 stages for it, so that's actually quite nice. But like I said, the first stage gets up, so opens up to maybe about what I say 5 degrees, and after you just need a little help in it, but it's extremely smooth all the way through to the very end. The display is a wide ultra extended graphics array which has a resolution of 1920 by 1200, so it has an aspect ratio of 16 by 10, which is great because you get that little extra real estate for your start par. It is protected by the Gorilla Glass, which can take quite a lot of impact. It is multi-touch as well, and it does have a glossy finish because it is running a Gorilla Glass. We've got very narrow bezels on each side, and the top and bottom, it's pretty narrow as well. Because it's running this glossy finish, we've got some very nice clarity coming out of this display. Measuring the color gamut coverage of the wide ultra extended graphics array display with a rating of 350 nits brightness or luminance, it resulted with 98.8% sRBG coverage, 72.7% Adobe RGB coverage, and 78.1% DCI P3 coverage. When I tested out the display in the sun, this is where that glossy finish has some drawbacks, as you get quite a lot of reflection coming from the display. So much that you do find a little bit difficult consuming multimedia and also working on documents when you're in direct sunlight. But if you're in shade and also indoors, you don't have any issues at all with its 350 nits of brightness, and it is extremely nice and clear. I also didn't find there was much light leak around the edges as well. This is a recording from the 1080p webcam from the Acer Swift 5. This is the video and audio unedited so you can hear and see what the quality of webcam is like. Now, first off, I'd like to say it's great to see that Acer's placed a 1080p webcam in 2022, so we're doing a little more video conferencing and also content creation, so it's great to see a 1080p webcam in this Acer Swift 5. Now, as always, I've got 2 types lights currently turned on. I've got my 1 studio light turned on, also the down lights in this turned on for ambience. I'm going to turn off my 1 studio light off, and you'll see this adjust, and I think it adjusted pretty quick. I'd love to hear what your thoughts of this. And I've got 2 down lights in front of me, which is a bit far away, so there's not much light hitting on my face. So this is what I consider a dark environment. Now, if you're in the office environment, you should get much more light than what I'm currently at. I'm going to turn my 1 studio back on. You see this adjust. Again, I think it adjusted pretty quick. And of course, better quality light gives you better quality picture. Definitely love to hear your thoughts of this webcam. Put a comment below. There are 2 speakers located on the bottom front on either side of the laptop. And when I tested out the maximum volume of the speakers, it managed to measure in at 85.4 decibels. I consider this per about the mid-range for volume types of speakers. You should still be able to hear this quite happy when you're outdoors and at a cafe if you're doing presentation. And as for the sound quality of the speakers, we do hear some bass, but it's a very low amount of bass, not that oomphy bass, but still at least bass is present. And it's got very strong mids and highs. It is balanced more towards the highs. We've got very good clarity. I didn't really hear much distortion out of the speakers at all. And as for the acoustic, it's pretty decent as well. And you can pretty much hear 360 degrees around the laptop. The Swift 5 comes with a 54.5 watt-hour battery, and I managed to get 10 hours and 49 minutes for the Modern Office battery life test in PC Mark 10, 1 hour and 26 minutes for gaming, and 11 hours and 6 minutes for video playback on the Procom battery tests. For me, I consider this having all-day battery life, so you should be able to work on this for the whole entire day on one charge. As for the temperatures and fan noise, when I put the computer on load, I found most of the heat is located in the center of the keyboard, which is unsurprising because that's where the processor lives underneath. When I took my measurements, my ambient temperature was 18 degrees Celsius and ambient room noise was 35 decibels. Before we get started, just want to give you a reference point. Your average hand at 18 degrees is anywhere between 33 to 34 degrees Celsius. So hopefully it gives you an idea of how hot or how cool this laptop could be. I took my base measurement when the computer was idle, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 29 degrees Celsius. As for the fan noise, stayed at 35 decibels, so it's practically silent. And the average internal core temperature was 32 degrees Celsius. Then I put 20% load on the computer. That's pretty much average use. That's tasks like office productivity work, surfing the web, streaming video, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 32 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, hit a maximum of 37 decibels. So you do hear the fan a little bit, but it's still very quiet. And the average internal core temperature was 35 degrees Celsius. Then I put 50% load on the computer, and the hottest area on the computer measured a maximum of 33 degrees Celsius. And as for the fan noise, hit a maximum of 39 decibels. And the average internal core temperature was 47 degrees Celsius. Then I put 100% load on the computer, and the hottest area on the keyboard measured a maximum of 41 degrees Celsius. As for the fan noise, hit a maximum of 42 decibels. And as for the average internal core temperatures, was anywhere between 72 to 60 degrees Celsius. And I also measured the bottom back cover of the computer, and the hottest area on the back cover was 45 degrees Celsius. And of course, the fan noise stayed at 42 decibels. In general, the Swift 5 does run very cool most of the time, all the way up to about 80% load, and then after 80 to 100%, it's not really that crazy hot. And I've got to admit, it's not really that loud considering we've got two small fans running, and it's not even high-pitched sound at all. So I'm actually surprised how well it did in temperatures and fan noise, although it does have a bit of thermal throttling, and that's probably what's caused that to actually have quite low temperatures. Let's have a look at the stability performance of the processor in the Acer Swift 5. This particular unit is configured with an i7-1260P processor. Looking on the Intel website, it reports the performance core has a maximum turbo boost of 4.7 GHz, and the efficiency core has a maximum turbo boost of 3.4 GHz. And it goes anywhere between 20 to 64 watt TDP. And Windows report it has a base clock speed of 2.1 GHz. I've got this computer connected to mains power, set the power mode to best performance in Windows power scheme, and I've got a lot of load on the processor, memory, and storage. And this load has been going for over 6.5 hours. And I can see the processor is anywhere between 1.7 to about 1.9 gigahertz. So I'm just going to average that out at 1.8 gigahertz. Now 1.8 gigahertz, it is below the base clock speed of 2.1 gigahertz from Windows reporting it. So there is a bit of thermal throttling, and you can see from the average internal core temperature, it is at, I would say, around about 62 degrees to about 60 degrees Celsius. So you can see there is a bit of thermal throttling from this computer. We're going to have a look at the single core performance and behavior. I'm going to start a single core task in Citybench R23, start the clock watch, and we'll just observe the speed of this processor in this Swift 5. You can see it's just gone up to about 3.5 and trying to touch the 3.6 gigahertz. And this is after the first 15 seconds. And we are just doing, we still have this computer connected to mains power and set to best performance and power scheme for Windows. And just past the first 30-second mark, and it's anywhere ranging between about 3.4 to about 3.6 gigahertz. So I was looking at about 3.5 gigahertz on average. Now I just saw that quickly touch the 3.3, but no, it's really more about 3.4 gigahertz here. Now around about the 3.5 minute mark, the processor did go down to about 2.8 gigahertz and stayed like that for about 2 minutes. And after that, it actually went back to about 3.3 gigahertz. It stayed very consistent, stable at 3.3 to about 3.4 gigahertz. So there is a little bit of down to it, but it pretty much is mostly at 3.3 gigahertz. We've got a pretty good, decent keyboard on the Swift 5. It's got a nice travel distance on each individual key, and we have a very nice tactile feel and bounce to each individual key, and they're quite quiet in terms of key noise as well, and we've got nice spacing in between each keys, and I will consider these medium to large size keys compared to other laptops. As for the trackpad, I have no issues on the trackpad. It's got a medium-sized trackpad. I don't find it underly small or overly large. It's actually quite a decent size. And it is mechanical, so it's hinged at the top and you can depress it on the bottom, and it is multi-gesture as well. We've got a very smooth, silky glass texture to the trackpad, and it is very responsive. And as for the palm rest, it is pretty much considered plastic all the way through. It has the same texture as the top and bottom cover of the laptop. Here's the results of the benchmarks for the Swift 5. This one's configured with an Intel Core i7-1260P processor with 16 gigs of RAM, 1TB SSD, and here's the results for Citybench R23, PC Mark, 3D Mark, Crystal Disk Mark, Geekbench 5, Procon Office, Procon Photo Edit, Procon Video Edit, Fusion Photoshop, Fusion Lightroom, Fusion Premiere Pro, Fusion After Effects, Fusion DaVinci Resolve, Blender, Luxmark, Burmark, Compute Bench, Eugene Engine, and Spec View Pref. In some gaming benchmarks like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry New Dawn, Far Cry 6, and F1 2021. Let's have a look at the internals. First off, you need to undo the 11 Torque screws. You do need a T5 Torque screwdriver to actually undo them. It's pretty easy after that. Then after that, just got to pry it open. Start from the hinge, move your way across there, and then start from the hinge and move across and repeat on the other side. Before you just lift the lid up, just want to give you a little note here. There is a battery reset hole here. You do need a paper clip, and if you've got any like ghost charging or there's some issues with batteries, it's a good idea just to give the battery reset first, and then before you call up support, you probably need to just pull the paper clip in for about 10 seconds or so. And then I've run the screws already to speed up time, and we've got the 54.5 watt-hour battery on the bottom here, and it's connected right down here. Now, just above there, we've got the wireless and Bluetooth card here on the down here, and looking on the very right of the battery, we've got the M.2 SSD. Of course, it is 2280 slot. Now, interesting is heat shield wrap, and it also got thermal tape over it, which actually then tries to use the back of the back case to actually try and spread the heat. So you actually see this in the thermals where this actually gets quite heated up. So that's just something just to be note of, but it's interesting that they've actually tried to put that across here, and you do feel that actually comes. So it does effectively work. Now, of course, you can't upgrade the memory as it is sold to system board, you can see, and then we've got the processor here. You've got a twin pipe system. Now, I've also noticed that the two fans, they're actually quite small bladed fans for this particular size of this laptop. So that is very interesting to see, to actually see small bladed fans for a 14-inch. We do have quite a bit of room for improvement, especially on the left-hand side here. Overall, the Acer Swift 5 is a pretty decent laptop package as a whole. We've got a very nice premium look to it, especially that nice gold brush aluminium along the sides. Definitely does stand out. And we also have a very good build construction. It is also very durable and is quite rugged as what I would consider as well too. And also have a decent keyboard, trackpad, and display. And I do like the amount of ports it has got, so you don't have to worry about carrying dongles or adapters around with you. And we have a decent amount of performance. Although this laptop, I would say, is more suited for people who do office productivity work, as well as those who have burst speed or short duration tasks. As for long duration tasks for more than 10 to 12 minutes, if those are put on massive amount of load, you do find that it does have a bit of thermal throttling there. So there is a bit of performance hit from those tasks that have more than 10 minutes in duration, that there is a little bit of performance hit there. So just beware of that one there. But overall, generally a decent computer. Now I hope you found this video informative or enjoyed it. If you did, and support my channel, smash that like button for me. And if you haven't done already, subscribe my channel by hitting that subscribe button on the screen. I do try to upload a new video every week. And if you want to support me further, I also have membership by clicking that join button right next to the subscribe button. And as always, imperfections in life makes it beautiful and interesting. And I'll see you next video.